watching?
Children's programming.
Right now.
It's a strange time because like there's literally nothing you can do if like you come into contact with somebody who has it.
Yeah.
Luckily that has not happened to me. But there's the fear that it can. You know, and it's nice to be making some money. Like, you know, I'm not getting the hours that I had then. I'm not getting the money I had then. So I have at least something. It's better than unemployment, which is only $300 right now. Although they're saying that unemployment could go up to like 900.
Well, if they get the stimulus they already passed the stimulus. I guess we're gonna get 1,200, even if you're not affected by it. But
yeah, so I don't know. You never know.
That's another topic for itself.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the children. No, I don't know.
Yes.
So we're
here to talk about what the children need to like in the world,
episode
such as the Beastie Boys book, which I have been reading during this lockdown.
As soon as I'm able to spend money again, I think I might pick that up.
It's definitely worth it. So it's the story of them told from Mike D and Ad Rock's perspective. Apparently, Spike Jonze is making a Beastie Boys documentary.
He would be the fitting one to do it because he directed all their music videos.
Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to come out. It was supposed to come out this year, but I'm assuming that's not happening.
Probably not.
But everything's getting pushed. This is going to be the most hilarious Oscars ever.
Well, most Oscar movies come out in December or November.
But like, if everything's getting pushed back to then, that's going to affect the release dates for that awards based.
Oh, I guess you're right.
So we might have Academy Award winner Sonic the Hedgehog.
Or maybe they'll move it up and put it in we'll get Oscar movies in October or early August. Maybe because I don't expect to see a good movie until maybe mid-July.
Well, I don't expect to see any movies for at least another month.
Oh, there you go. What do you think about? I was thinking of a topic. What do you think about they released The Invisible Man during the quarantine? Now they put it on streaming or whatever. Do you think that'll give them the hint that eventually they can just do that normally?
I feel like this is just another example of why streaming is the future. That this is I think the biggest effect in terms of like movies and like just awards season that this is going to have is this is going to fully legitimize Netflix as a studio and as a platform, because like even though they've been coming out with like heavy hitters like Irishman and Marriage Story and stuff like that, they're still kind of that Steven Spielberg, it's not real cinema feeling over that.
Yeah, but
this is like
you're gonna get to the point where people don't care anymore.
Well, I think people already don't care, but I mean this is like I think the impetus for like the industry to be like, well, nobody could go to the theater, so we kind of have to recognize these movies. Well, that'll be like a step. Like I guarantee you that Tiger King is going to be in the running for the best documentary feature.
I don't know. Does that count as a documentary? Well, the OJ documentary won the Oscar one year. Yeah. So technically, you would have to screen the entire film in its entirety at least once.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
You got the Rona over there?
I got the Rona. It's a nice Inherent Vice poster you got back there.
Oh,
Where'd you get that one?
You. You gave it to me.
Yes.
Do you like the white stripes one and the other one?
I do enjoy that. Quite good.
I would fully support Tiger King for Best Picture. For Best Picture?
I don't know about that. A documentary has never won Best Picture or got nominated.
What is it competing against right now, though?
This is true, but...
here's a fun fact about the current state of the film industry. So, Dr. Dolittle, the Robert Downey Jr. version.
The Robert Downey Jr. vehicle?
Yeah, which came out in January and nobody cared. So that's currently the third highest grossing film of the year.
It's kind of sad.
And because of the way things are getting pushed back, it's probably going to stay in the top 10. It will probably finish 9th or 10th. And this is despite being a bomb that lost the studio upwards of $100 million.
I kind of feel bad for Robert. Well, actually, I don't, because he's got all his Marvel money. But like, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about right when the movie came out. Obviously, it was press for it. But he talked about how he like delved into the character and he put a whole bunch of effort into it, and compared it to his dad made one really famous movie over the years when he was an actor.
Putney Swope?
Putney, whatever. What was it called?
Yeah. Putney Swope.
Putney Slope, yes. I have never seen it nor heard of it, but I guess that's...
I only know it because Buck Swope from Boogie Nights, the Don Cheadle character, is named after that movie.
Oh, okay.
That's the only reason I know.
Yeah, that makes sense. But where was I going with that?
He was on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. You feel bad for a guy, but at the same time, like, he can pretty much do whatever he wants for the rest of his career. He's pretty much set.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you dove into Dr. Dolittle, but really, bro?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe he just wanted to try something different, but I would think he would go for something more independent since he's been so commercial the last 10 years.
Yeah. Maybe he wants to be like that Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio figure, where they're just starring in big movies all the time.
Or maybe it's reverse, like he does his Oscar movies early in his career, and now he's just in his commercial stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did that, remember that movie he did with Robert Duvall a few years ago?
Oh, The Judge? That was a good movie. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was like an Oscar contender, I think.
I think Duvall got nominated.
Yeah.
That's the only thing it really got.
That was directed by the Wedding Crashers guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that movie yesterday, actually.
Wedding Crashers?
No, The Judge. I was just like, will anybody actually remember this?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, I thought it was an average enough movie.
That's an interesting topic for another time, is like comedy directors who started doing Oscar bait. Like, for example, Peter Farrelly with Green Book.
Yes. Well, he directed, oh yeah, there you go, Peter Farrelly.
Yeah. Who was the guy who did remember the Trumbo movie with Bryan Cranston?
Yes.
And Louis C.K. was in it.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember who directed it.
That was, I don't remember the name of the guy, but he had been like a comedy veteran too.
Let's see.
Or like even last year, Todd Phillips with Joker.
Jay Roach?
Jay Roach, okay.
I feel like that name sounds familiar.
He did some other like big comedy movie. I can't remember what it was.
He directed Austin Powers.
Okay, yeah.
He directed Meet the Parents.
Okay.
No, he produced Meet the Parents.
He produced Meet.
Directed. No, he did direct Meet the Parents.
Okay.
All three Austin Powers movies. Yeah, and Trumbo.
And then a Trumbo biopic.
He also directed that Bombshell movie that came out last year, the one about the Fox News people.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I didn't even get this.
Was that good? Did you see it?
Nah, I didn't really have any interest in it.
I did not either.
That's not something I would go to see.
No, I'm not. I have enough Fox News when I go to my grandfather's house. I don't need it in the movie theater.
Oh yes. Speaking of which, Jay Roach is married to the lead singer of the Bangles. You know, the Walk Like the Egyptian band.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting fact, just because I saw that.
We're just uncovering all kinds of great stuff on this show.
True uncut gems.
True uncut gems.
So,
the ironic thing about that movie is that, as a Jewish man, his gem would have been cut.
Ooh. You're terrible. So, Noah Syndergaard decided to get Tommy John surgery. I don't know if he decided.
Did he now?
I don't know if he decided or
he was just... This seems like a bad time to be just going to the hospital to get optional surgery, does it not?
Yeah, I think when Chris Sale was announced he was getting his, Michael Kay was saying that he was kind of weirded out by why would he do it so late? Like, it's like the end of spring training at this point.
But also, like, we're in the middle of, like, the biggest disease outbreak in a century, and you're going to go willingly to a hospital and get surgery? Yeah. Like, that doesn't seem smart at all.
I guess you could say it's not selfish because he doesn't want to get back to playing within a reasonable time.
Right.
But at the same time, that's kind of like an optional surgery.
Well, that's the thing. Like, isn't that what the government is saying? Is like, don't go to the hospital if it's optional.
Yeah.
Only go if it's necessary. Like, this seems I get it from the perspective of like he wants to prolong his career. He doesn't want to be out for an extended period of time. Like, if we're not playing games until May or June anyway, just wait until then and do it. I don't understand what's the rush.
Well, I guess you want to rush to get back, because if you were to have the surgery in June, if you waited till then to do it, which I don't even get why he would wait that long. If he probably knew he was going to have to get it earlier in the season, he just probably played through it.
Maybe he'll go to like Omaha and get it done, where there isn't a coronavirus problem.
Oh, Nebraska's at a low case number.
I don't know. I'm just assuming because it's like no one goes there.
Shout out to the people.
Very little chance of cross contamination.
Shout out to the people of Oklahoma. Not Oklahoma. Nebraska.
Yeah. Shout out to the movie Nebraska for being great.
Now, when we were talking earlier about the top 5 films that impacted your life, was that one of them?
Nebraska?
Yeah.
It might be. It was definitely like that was my favorite movie when I saw it. It jumped up there, and it's lost some of its luster now, but that really had a profound effect on me when I saw it.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it was just like it was the relationship he had with Will Forte, had with his dad, Bruce Stern, because like I see my dad getting older, I see my grandfather getting older, and and it was very relatable to me at that time, and like because this was like late high school for me, so it was, even though the characters in the movie were older, I could relate to it in my own life. It was just, I thought it was really smartly written. The mom character reminded me of my mom. She has that same kind of Midwest, country farm citizen sense of humor. And I was just entrapped by it and amazed by it. Like the way that he uses black and white to create the mood of middle America, and the way the music in that movie is excellent. It's one of the best scores ever.
Who directed that?
And it doesn't get talked about enough.
Who directed that?
Alexander Payne.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's like that indie darling kind of a director.
Yeah.
He's the what else did he direct? Did he direct that Sideways movie?
He did Sideways, yeah. About Schmidt is one of his, and Election. Oh. And he did that movie with George Clooney for The Descendants.
Yes.
Remember that? Yeah. So, yeah, he's done a bunch of good stuff.
I feel like Bruce Dern, that's the first time I was really introduced to him. I haven't heard of him before, but I guess he was a big actor in his day.
Yeah, he was like a cowboy guy. He was in like John Wayne stuff.
Yeah. He's just kind of funny to say, like we saw him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That was kind of funny to see him just as a random character, because he's just like so old and crotchety now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what else has he? What else has he done?
His greatest.
What else has he done?
He produced Laura Dern, A Better Actor.
I do know Laura Dern. Let's see. Yeah, I guess he wasn't really in any movies that I would know at the time. Let's see. He was in one of the last Alfred Hitchcock movies. But yeah, I guess he won an Oscar in the 70s. But I feel like I've literally never heard of him other than Nebraska.
I was thinking the other day about like who's the greatest cameo actor of all time.
Probably what's his name? The guy from Good, Bad, and the Ugly. They played Tuco.
Oh, the Italian dude.
Yep.
I don't know his name.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. What's his name?
My always
Eli
my
Wallach.
go-to is Eli Wallach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not Italian.
Well, he was in the Godfather. That's probably why you thought he was Italian.
That's
yeah,
right.
He was in the Godfather too. But actors who just pop up in places, they're good. Like 1 second
My
actors.
favorite has always been Philip Baker Hall.
Who's he?
The legend, the cameo legend. He plays the porn producer in Boogie Nights.
I have not seen Boogie Nights. I keep hearing you mention it. I should probably give it a watch.
Yeah, you should. I got the Blu-ray. You can borrow it when this Crisis is in.
I'm sure I could find it.
Yeah, he was in that. He's in Magnolia as the game show host. He's in a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson stuff.
Yeah.
But then he was in he plays the private detective in Talented Mr. Ripley. He's in The Insider. He's in Air Force One.
Mm-hmm.
He's in The Rock as the Secretary of State.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Trying to think another actor that would make a cameo. I guess you could say I guess Brian O'Halloran in Kevin's universe. Because he just pops up here and there.
Or Brian O'Halloran in The Happening.
He was in The Happening?
Yeah.
Really?
There's this one shot of him driving a Jeep and then looking behind him and screaming.
That's kind of funny.
It's really great.
You know who's an actor in himself who I feel does that a lot is Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
I feel like Paul Giamatti just shows up in movies.
Yep.
And you're like, why is he here?
Have you ever seen some of his earliest roles? Where he'll just randomly show up in some movie from the late 90s and you're like, holy shit, that's Paul Giamatti. Yeah. Pre-fame.
I think we mentioned this once, but he was the son of one of the commissioners of baseball.
Yeah.
He was the one that banned Pete Rose, I think.
Yeah.
That's kind of random, but
he's in Donnie Brasco for 1 second as an FBI agent. He's in Truman Show. Remember that?
Yep.
Philip Baker Hall is in Truman Show too.
I've never heard of this man.
And remember in Private Parts, the Howard Stern biopic starring Howard Stern.
Another movie I haven't seen.
Where Paul Giamatti is in that too. He plays Pig Vomit.
Oof. I think Private Parts might be a good what do you call it? A good the thing where you watch the movie. A good commentary track that we could do.
That would be. I'm down for that.
Yeah, because I've never seen it, and I love Howard Stern. So,
starring Howard Stern as Howard Stern.
We love that.
And Fred Norris and Robin Quivers as themselves. Also,
another one that came to mind was James Cromwell.
Yeah,
the guy from Babe. He just kind of pops up here and there.
He's in the Green Mile, I think.
Yeah.
For 1 second. Yeah. You know Tim.
Yeah. Friend of the show.
Tim went to his house one time.
Yeah, he lives in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's big into the anti-fracking movement in the area.
Yeah. So that's what happened. So Tim and his parents went to James Cromwell's house because his parents were going to be part of this fracking protest. They were meeting to organize it.
Yeah, he's big in the area.
And Tim just sat on the couch, and he was like, "Yeah, I didn't even know who he was."
Well, he's not really that famous, so I don't blame him.
It's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
Because we know who he is.
Yeah.
So, if we were there, or at least if I was there, I'd be like, holy shit, this is James Cromwell's house.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd was doing that for a while.
We're just making cameos?
Yeah, remember when he was in Pearl Harbor for one scene?
I think I saw 10 minutes of Pearl Harbor.
Dan Aykroyd is one of the generals in Pearl Harbor.
Really?
For some reason. Him and Alec Baldwin are both generals in that.
John Travolta playing the general in Thin Red Line was very jarring.
Oh,
I thought that was very strange. He just didn't fit. Any movie he plays nowadays, I just feel like he doesn't fit.
Except Gotti.
Except Gotti, of course.
Gotti is a masterpiece.
I don't even believe they gave that movie a physical release.
I can't believe that made it past the conception stage.
What I think about Gotti is that it got it had more of its support was from the family, so they had a lot of hands in the making of the movie. So they probably had some liberties as to what was shown.
You're not going to do a tell-all John Gotti movie if John Gotti's family is helping you write the script.
If anything, it was just a PowerPoint presentation. Is that the thing Ralph said? He was it's a PowerPoint presentation of his life.
I think so.
Yeah. I just felt like the movie was very just pieced together.
Yeah. It's a very apt way to describe it, PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. So, you wrote up your thing today about movies that have impacted your life.
I actually forgot to do that, to be perfectly honest.
Well, you wrote one about the assassination of Jesse James.
Oh yeah.
We don't have to do all of them. I'm just saying that could be a just general thing that we do.
So
Yeah.
I'll be happy to read that off. I mean,
Well,
I don't even need to read
just
it.
Give
off.
the abridged version.
Yeah, I mean, it's a masterful film. It's maybe my favorite ever.
What's the film called? So the people at home know.
This is called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
What a title.
It's a very long title. The studio fought hard to get the title changed, and Brad Pitt said he would drop out if they changed it. He had it written into his contract that had to be the title.
That's fantastic.
Isn't it?
Yes.
He actually does that a lot in his movies. He'll like write things into his contract that if you do X, Y, and Z, I'm quitting. Like he did that with Seven. They had to keep the original ending in order to get him to do it.
What was the alternate ending?
That they save Gwyneth Paltrow and Kevin Spacey's plan fails.
That would have completely ruined the movie.
I know.
I feel like the anarchy of that movie is just based on that ending. With how nobody wins in the end but John Doe. He gets everything he wants.
Yeah. They also tried to make it a dog's head in the box.
Really?
They tried that as well.
That would not have worked at all.
Yeah.
It's amazing like what changes you can make to a movie that'll just completely destroy it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So the Jesse James.
Jesse James. It's called The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. It's directed and written by Andrew Dominic, and it's based on an actual historical novel about the events. And it's amazing. It's an absolute masterwork. It's about Jesse James, obviously, and the story of this real life Wild West gunslinger who robbed trains and he was sort of a Robin Hood of his time. He was like a steal from the rich, give to the poor kind of person. And he had like this posse, the James gang that followed him around. And Robert Ford basically grows up reading about these Jesse James and James gang exploits in pulp magazines, basically. And him and his brother Charlie want to join the James gang. And Bob has kind of been pushed around his whole life. He's got older brothers. The other guys in the gang aren't taking to him because he's kind of weird. He's kind of a loner, and he's entranced by this power and this aura of confidence that Jesse James has, and he wants to be like Jesse James, and then he really wants to be like Jesse James. And then he really, really, really wants to be like Jesse. And then he wants to be Jesse James. And he gets more and more obsessed and goes further and further down the rabbit hole. And spoilers, it's not really a spoiler because it's the title of the film. But
kind of gives it away.
Bob Ford kills Jesse James and decides that he's going to take his place as the Wild West champion, the people's hero. And it doesn't work. And that's where I think the real brilliance of the movie is that by killing him, Jesse James becomes an even more mythical figure. Like becomes a god, basically, to the Wild West people. And Bob Ford just kind of lives out the rest of his life as an alcoholic who's only famous for being the guy who killed Jesse James. And there's this great bunch of scenes where he's reenacting it with his brother as Jesse James, on a stage tour. So he goes out with like the Buffalo Bill show or some equivalent of that. And they're doing the performance every night. And he has to relive like the worst decision he ever made every night. And it's just so smartly written because it's a Western. It's a Western, like a John Wayne type of thing where it's what goes around comes around. Nothing good ever came out of killing people type of movie.
Is it like alternate history, if anything?
No, it's a historical movie.
So it's fairly accurate as much as you can make it accurate?
Yeah, all the stuff really happened. but it's also so much smarter than that. It's like it's about loneliness, it's about pain, it's about wanting to belong, and it's about what happens when you take it way too far and you'll literally do anything to try and belong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a great script, and you can, like, I remember I wrote in my write-up, like, you can see the parallels between Robert Ford and people like Mark David Chapman
mm-hmm.
and Yolanda Saldivar and real life people like that who killed famous celebrities. Remember the guy who tried to kill Ronald Reagan, something like that. But it also, you feel Robert Ford in yourself, and you see how this could easily be any other person in the world. And it's just such a great script, and the camera work is great. Roger Deakins, the master.
Oh, of course.
They made it intentionally look like Days of Heaven. I don't know if you're familiar with that, the Terrence Malick movie.
I'm not familiar. I know what it is, but I've never seen it.
You've seen like the stills and stuff,
yeah,
like the wheat fields and stuff. So they did that on purpose. So they shot it up in Canada. There's all these empty spaces, wheat fields, and beautiful sunsets and woods and all that stuff. And Nick Cave does the score. Nick Cave is an indie musician. Amazing. Very untraditional score too, which is great for the movie.
Why do you say that?
Because it's not like orchestral. It's just kind of piano and then like really like low, deep note string instruments. So it's very, very strange, very unsettling at times. And it's just brilliant. It's an amazing film. It doesn't get the hype that it deserves.
What was I gonna say to that?
I can't say enough good things about it. Brad Pitt, great. Casey Affleck, one of the best performances in film history as Bob Ford.
Casey Affleck?
Yeah. And it's got like a who's who of like interesting actors in it too, like Sam Rockwell.
Before he was famous?
It has, not necessarily before he was famous, but definitely before he was like
Avatar famous.
Yeah. Jeremy Renner pre-Hawkeye is there.
Pre-Hurt Locker.
Yeah, pre-Hurt Locker. Yeah. James Carville, the former Bill Clinton strategist.
Really? That's funny.
He was like a real politician, and he plays like the governor of Mississippi. Missouri.
Speaking of him, have you ever seen The War Room? It's a documentary about the Clinton campaign.
No.
It's a great movie. It's it was it was a really early like political documentary that like it basically laid the foundation for every political campaign going forward. The filmmaker ended up going in and following the entire campaign. He was giving all this access that because they thought like, oh, it's just going to be like a campaign, so it's going to be boring. But they had characters like Carville. They had George Stephanopoulos, who was his campaign manager, or he was like his public relations manager.
Right.
And it's just like how they go to great lengths to make this guy president, even though at the time he had his scandals going on. He had that woman accusing him of, cheating on Hillary for the first time.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But how many times would we see that again?
Of course. But it's just kind of like a weird piece of history because it's how most campaigns are run today, where it's just a mob of people trying to go for one person. Yeah, it came out in 1993, I think. Probably whenever whenever he got elected. But it's funny, it's mostly about the Clinton campaign, but you don't see Bill Clinton very often throughout the movie. You see him maybe at the beginning and then maybe at the end. Yeah, it's just interesting because Carville's just a nut.
Such a weird guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Not Buffalo Bill, the Western character. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Ted Levin is in the movie.
In the assassination movie?
In Jesse James.
Really?
As Sheriff Timberlake.
Really?
Yeah.
He's one of the... I can't see him in anything else. That's just strange. That's a weird one.
Yeah.
For the movie I was going to pick, I I was going to be in a couple. I was
Okay.
gonna say I'm not gonna go through Clerks, obviously, because that would be too understandable.
Everyone knows that you love Clerks.
Yes.
You're the world's foremost Clerks
Yes.
fan.
So I thought, what do you think is the movie that inspired me to be a filmmaker? It's not Clerks.
What was the one that inspired you to do it?
Mm-hmm. It's a documentary.
I'm going to guess American movie.
No, it was not American movie. I saw American movie a lot later.
Was it Roger and Me?
No, it was actually Super Size Me.
Super Size Me. Okay.
Yeah. So when I first saw that movie, I would think I was like, I don't know, like 15. And I remember having a reaction to that movie, like I think everybody did. And it made me understand that documentaries can have a real human connection with people and not just be boring filler. It was just strange because I didn't ever think that a movie could do that to somebody. Where I was literally like chugging water while watching the movie because I was like, I'm unhealthy. I have to stop doing this. It didn't change over time, obviously, because you see the movie and eventually it passes. But just how it was presented and how you could use comedy and documentary together is kind of great. I was going to say also Michael Moore was a big inspiration for me. Basically any of his films, inspire me all the time. Just because documentary is a really tough subject or a really tough genre, because you're going and you're discussing a topic and you're basically just having to give the facts of that topic. But I feel when you add some comedy to it, it's when it gets people to listen.
Right.
Like just making a documentary about McDonald's is not particularly interesting, but the novelty of him eating fast food for a whole month is kind of enough to get you in. And then Spurlock, the director, is such a funny guy. Says, right. I like when the directors like the subject of their movie. I like documentaries that do that.
Have you ever seen because when you were talking about people who are like front and center in their own documentaries, I immediately thought of Religulous. Yeah, with Bill Maher. So it's you would love this. So it's Bill Maher goes around to like different religious leaders and like religious areas. Like he goes to Salt Lake City and interviews Mormons. He's interviewing like Catholics, Muslims, all these different people about like, because Bill Maher is like a staunch atheist.
I'm aware.
So he's trying to get to the root of like, why do people believe? And he pulls up all this ridiculous shit that's in like different holy books. He's like when he's talking to the Mormons, he's like, okay, so do you really believe that God is a physical being who lives on the planet Kolob?
Bill Maher is just I find him to be very arrogant.
But that's part of the charm of watching him.
Is the arrogance. I'm entertained by him. I agree with his views, obviously. We're very similar on the spectrum, but I feel like he just is so mightier than thou that it just doesn't do anything for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that he invites people on his show that are like from all different spectrums and then just kind of shits on them. Which is nice. But I feel like I would like the Religious movie. But is he like very judgmental towards people, or is he? Or that's...
No, it's not. It's not really like that. There's just a lot of humor in it too. Like he's talking about a passage from the Book of Mormon at one point that discusses how if dark-skinned people are sufficiently righteous, they can become light-skinned.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is something that's in the Book of Mormon, and he's got like going across the bottom of the screen, Michael Jackson changing from black to white.
That's fantastic. He just doesn't care. I just like people like that.
Yeah. What would be your dream subject to make a documentary?
A dream subject? I've always wanted... The one I've wanted to make for a while was that documentary about... There was that famous Brinks robbery in the 80s. And there was this whole big backstory about this... There was this terrorist group, like left-wing terrorist group. And it was all these people from around here. It was actually one of Tupac's... Tupac's stepfather was involved. So that was a strange one. But I don't know what the purpose for them for robbing a bank was, but they're an interesting subject because most of the people are still in jail. One of them actually got released because her father was rich enough to be able to get her out of jail, and now she's a professor at Columbia. And there's been a big. I think I've talked about this before, and there's like a big movement to get her out, or to get her out of teaching, because she's responsible for the murder of 4 people, basically. I believe it's 4. That's an interesting subject. I mean, what we're doing right now with the RSD documentary is definitely, obviously, my favorite subject, so that's always a good one.
This kind of a dream come true.
Definitely. That'd be.
Would you ever do like a music one?
A music documentary?
Like, could you ever see yourself making something like "Gimme Shelter" or some kind of monster or "Shine a Light" or something?
Like a rock documentary?
Yeah.
I could definitely see myself doing that because I like the tone of those. I like when there's like performance and then in between, you add like a little bit of story, kind of like Bullet in a Bible was. Kind of like where there's that, discussing the lead up to the album or something like that, and then you get a couple songs here and there. Gimme Shelter is a really strange movie.
Yeah, it is.
Just because of like it's one of the rock documentaries I feel like are, like I said, snapshots in time, where they're kind of just like that direct cinema thing where you're just seeing exactly what happens as it happens. Actually, the guy...
The cinema verite approach.
Yeah, the cinema verite approach. The guy that directed that actually directed The War Room, funny enough.
Who?
D.A. Pennebaker. He directed Gimme Shelter, and he directed The War Room. Very famous documentarian.
Quite the pedigree there. He did Jimmy at Monterey, too, I think.
Yep, he did the Bob Dylan documentary, too. Yeah, he did a bunch of... I don't know how he got that much access when they were relevant. Because that's a lot of access for basically the biggest stars of the time. So...
Maybe he was the only one doing it, because nobody else was really doing it.
There was only a few really relatively documentary filmmakers at the time. The whole art form didn't really come to light again until the late 80s. Most of the, well-known documentaries are from the last 20 years, Roger and Me, Hoop Dreams, things like that.
Hoop Dreams is a great one.
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, so...
It's just...
You've got to. As soon as... Listen, when they do that Barnes & Noble Criterion sale, me and you are going, and we're getting Hoop Dreams and watching it.
Definitely. I'm definitely for that. I'll watch whatever. It's just... I feel like I have that issue where I really like movies, but there's just plenty I haven't seen.
Yeah. No, my IMDb watch list is like 1,300 titles or something insane.
I just wish...
Anything that...
I need to make more time to go through my list. There's just a lot of important movies that I haven't seen. Like, I haven't seen Jurassic Park.
You haven't seen Jurassic Park?
No, I haven't seen E.T. I haven't seen most of Spielberg's movies.
Dude, okay, Spielberg, Jaws, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Schindler's List.
Never seen Indiana Jones.
Ryan. Those are probably the most important ones.
I saw Last Crusade. I didn't see Indiana Jones.
You didn't see the original Raider?
Yeah, they showed it to us in high school. We were taking a class, and they showed us Last Crusade.
I'm surprised Mark isn't all over you about never watching Raiders.
Yeah, that's one of his favorite movies.
I know. I'm aware.
Yeah. Just not a movie I've never really just had any interest in seeing it. I saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when I was like 9.
I went on opening night to that. I still don't think that's as bad as people say.
No, it's not that bad of a movie. I think it's watchable. I haven't.
It's definitely it's. I think it's good. I really do. I don't understand why people hate it so much.
It's campy.
It is but so is like Batman Forever. Batman Forever is all right. It wasn't until Batman and Robin that it went totally off the rails. If they do a new Indiana Jones with 75, 80-year-old Harrison Ford, then that'll be the Batman and Robin.
I mean, they did a Rocky with a 60-year-old Sylvester Stallone, so anything's really possible.
But that's that movie was it was dumb, but it was cheesy and heartfelt. It's a little more believable that you could be a 60-year-old boxer than an 80-year-old super adventurer.
What would be great if they could get Connery to come out of retirement for one movie? just to be like his dad years later, even though they're probably close to the same age at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Connery, I was reading this the other day that he was offered a role in Skyfall.
Yeah.
Like to come out of retirement, he didn't take it.
Yeah, I think he's just retired.
It's probably for the best, because that would have just been odd to have 2 James Bonds on the screen.
Well, I guess that could sort of work. I mean, if you brought Pierce Brosnan into a movie now, it wouldn't be that abnormal. Just like a cameo would be kind of a little cool nod.
I feel like it would totally take me out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do that.
We're getting back to what we were talking about before. If you were to make a rockumentary, who would you make it?
Current?
I feel like you would make a great Weezer documentary.
That would be a good one. I read today that somebody said that Weezer is like the Kevin Smith of music.
They had a couple big hits in the 90s, and it's been nothing since then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people were going off in the Kevin Smith fan group.
Oh,
we love them.
great.
People were going off on that person who said that.
But it's like, it's not wrong, though. It's actually very, very astute. I have to give credit to whoever came up with that. That's actually insanely smart. Like, they had a super influential, legendary, amazing release in 1994.
This could be a great video topic of how Weezer's and Kevin Smith's career have subsequently followed each other.
Then they went out on tour basically and like weren't happy with the fame, so they went back and made a more emotional independent feature in 1996, 1997.
I'm just saying, this could be an idea.
Which was not commercially successful, but is probably artistically the best thing they've ever done. And then they've gone back to the well multiple times.
Yes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with
They went back to the well in 2001 with Jay and Silent Bob and with the Green album. They went back to the well again in 2006 with the Red album and Forks 2.
They do kind of line up. It's not...
Yeah.
I mean,
this is like...
Hurley came out in 2010, right?
Yeah.
That would have been Cop-Out era.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
right when both careers were at rock bottom.
They kind of fit.
There's something here.
I think we could make a whole video about that.
I was writing a video once, back when I was still trying to make YouTube videos. I had a script written for a video about why Ben Affleck and Green Day had the same career.
So next episode, we're going to talk about all your theories.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about Weezer and Kevin Smith, and then we're going to talk about Ben Affleck and Green Day.
Well, here's the thing. Weezer and Kevin Smith actually line up. Green Day and Ben Affleck don't line up. They were just the only people I could think of. I guess Aerosmith, too. But they were the only people I could think of that were, like, super famous. Went from super famous to not famous at all anymore, back to super famous.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of anybody else who's really done that.
I'm gonna put this in the fan page, and I'm gonna be like, "We're making this an entire topic. Thank you for your support."
Get ready for the hate to come flowing our way. I'm so excited.
I welcome their hatred.
This is the best theory that you and I have ever concocted.
Well, we didn't concoct it. We're borrowing from an individual.
Yes.
We'll give the person credit.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give our credit to Martin Holland. So Martin Holland came up with this idea. He's like, Kevin Smith is the cinema as Weezer is the music. Discuss.
What would be the music equivalent of Tarantino?
Now? That'd be a rock band probably.
It would have to be.
Maybe Bjork, I don't know. I don't know. Something strange. Something culty.
I know another band that had a landmark release in 1994.
Can I guess what it is?
That was extremely successful.
Can I guess what it was?
Yes.
Was it a popular band?
Yes.
Is it an overrated band?
Now.
Is it Nirvana?
Nirvana was... Kurt Cobain died in 94.
Oh, Nevermind was 92?
91.
What is it?
Nevermind. Nirvana is to music what Martin Scorsese is to film.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would. Nirvana is extremely important in musical history.
I just find them to be a little overrated.
I feel like the reason people sometimes feel that they're overrated is because people treat Kurt Cobain like he's like this god emperor of music.
I feel like people don't give enough credit to the rest of them.
Like the rest of who?
Like the rest of the
grunge movement?
No, the rest of Nirvana.
Oh, yeah, no. Like Dave and Chris were excellent.
Dave took a band. All of them are still in? Which ones went to the Foo Fighters?
Just Dave.
Just Dave. So Dave
Kurt died and Chris retired.
Dave just took a band, took himself out of a bad situation, and made basically the biggest rock band of our time, one could say.
Has there ever been a better rock star than Dave Grohl? So
that I can think of, no.
Now, in the sense that I've had this discussion before with our posse, our play-by-play grind hours posse.
Oh yes, shout out to Joe Leo.
Yeah, so like Dave Grohl was the drummer in one of the biggest bands of all time. Then he became the lead singer and guitarist of another one of the biggest bands of all time. In between, he has appeared in He has played with Pearl Jam. He has played with Queens of the Stone Age. He's made music with John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. He's been on the Grammys, on the all these different musical stages. He's already in the Hall of Fame with Nirvana and is almost certain to be in again with Foo Fighters in a few years. Has there ever been someone who's had a better career than Dave Grohl?
I can't think of any because, short of Chris Cornell, I can't think of anybody who's a bona fide rock god in the minds of most people.
In two different bands.
Exactly.
Because there's people that are rock gods, but they're usually in one band.
Yeah. Steven
Tyler is just Aerosmith. Robert Plant is just Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Speaking of Robert Plant, I heard Jack White described the other day as if Robert Plant played guitar. And I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, what did he say?
No, Jack didn't say anything. I just saw that.
Jack is what would it be if Robert Plant
played? Jack is what Robert Plant would be if he played guitar. Yeah. I thought that was funny.
I mean, Jack, even to some extent, Jack White could be considered a pseudo rock god.
I would Jack White is the last rock star.
And some say you could say, but what about Dave Grohl?
Dave Grohl was around before Jack.
Oh, so he's the last.
Jack came on the scene in the 2000s.
He's the last of his kind.
I honestly think who else is who is famous now that's really a quote unquote rock god
by themselves? Nobody, because we're in more of a rap era now.
Yeah, there's no.
Even the Black Keys, they're not really to that level, and I don't think they ever will be.
No, because their one chance was in 2011, and they chose not to pursue that. Because they remember on the Joe Rogan show when Pat was saying they had the option to send Lonely Boy to top 40, and they didn't. If they did, then things might have been different.
Yeah, but
other than that, what rock band has had a hit since
then? I think Dave would probably be the only really pure rock star to be in two of the biggest bands of its time.
That's what I'm saying.
Because Nirvana is probably the most influential band of the 90s, and then Foo Fighters is probably up there for, this era.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of anybody else.
Because even rock gods, quote unquote, they didn't live long enough, or they, left music before they even got a chance to reach that level.
Mm-hmm. Or you look at guys in the Beatles, for example.
None of them are really rock stars per se. They were in the Beatles.
But also when John Lennon and Paul McCartney left the Beatles, Plastic Ono Band and Wings did not have comparable influence to the Beatles.
No, they didn't have the same.
Foo Fighters has comparable influence to Nirvana.
Yeah. So like I said, you couldn't replicate that. I don't think it would take somebody being. It's like if Jack decided to be relevant then, and he's not as relevant now as he was in the past. But
right,
I mean, imagine if they started another super band and he became, bigger again.
What would Jack White's super band look like?
I guess you could say his side bands have a little bit of that, but it would have to take somebody like amazing to really start a super band.
But they're like indie side super bands.
Yeah.
Because like nobody, like Brendan Benson is like huge in the indie circuit, but no one in the mainstream really knows who he is. Mm-hmm. It would be like if Jack was going to be in a super band, I feel like it would have to be, it'd be hilarious if it was Jack White and Dan and Patrick from the Black Keys.
Really?
Because that's like the only quote unquote super band for him that would make sense, because they're also like modern blues musicians. There's nobody else who really does that. Gary Clark Jr. maybe.
Yeah.
But that's it.
I mean, the only thing I could really think of him going to the next level is if him and Meg got back together in the band and they won another Oscar and they were able to bridge that gap.
You mean a Grammy?
A Grammy. Excuse me. I do that.
They could win an Oscar too. That'd be cool.
That's true. I do that a lot.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jack White and Oscar bait, I was watching his lone film role again last night.
Yeah, you just keep rewatching it.
I've only seen it like twice. Yeah. But I watched Talented Mr. Ripley, and I was like, I'm not really tired. Let me just watch Cold Mountain, because it's the same guy, same director. So I was in that Minghella mindset. That movie is amazing. The amount of the amount of cast talent that they got together in Cold Mountain. I don't think people. I can't speak all of a sudden. I don't think people talk about that movie's cast enough. Like literally every single character is played by either someone who was huge in the early 2000s, was about to be huge, or had been huge and was now in the I'm an old man doing supporting roles phase of their career.
Yeah.
Like literally everybody. I was shocked, like watching it again. Like freaking Philip Seymour Hoffman shows up. Like Giovanni Ribisi is in it, and Natalie Portman is in it. Cillian Murphy is in it.
I'm so disappointed that Philip Seymour Hoffman isn't around anymore. Because he would have done great things.
Maybe the best actor of his generation died too soon.
Yeah. I mean, he basically has a career. He has a body of work that's well done. He never sold out or anything to some extent, so.
He won his Oscar.
He did what he needed to do. He came as quick as he went. So, have you been watching anything recently other than that?
I'm watching Tiger King.
I am as well.
Yeah.
What episode are you on?
I just watched the first one so far.
I'm on the third episode. The rabbit hole goes deep.
Ooh.
It goes.
I knew it was going to be good just based on the fact that the guy's name was Joe Exotic.
Oh my god!
And, my friend James told me you couldn't write SNL characters that are funnier than this real life stuff. So
it's really phenomenal. It's a great movie so far. I could see it winning Best Documentary based on how popular it is right now, but I don't know if that hurts it any being that popular.
I don't know if anything can hurt it now, because like what else is going to come out?
This is true. This is very true.
It's just going to be other Netflix shit. They pushed everything back. They pushed Jared Leto's Morbius the Living Vampire movie back.
Probably best to shelve it.
Yeah. They still say Venom 2 is going to come out this year. I don't know how they're going to manage that.
You know how cheesy that is to just put a 2 next to a movie?
Maybe Venom 2 will win the Oscar.
I don't think so.
If nothing else came out the rest of the year, what will win Best Picture right now?
For this year?
Yeah, you have to give it to something. Is it Bad Boys for Life?
I don't think they would allow that to happen. I think they would just reschedule the Oscars.
You'd rather reschedule the Oscars than give it to Bad Boys for Life.
Because the people in Hollywood love their awards.
Mm-hmm.
So
Best Actor, Jim Carrey for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh my god! Surprised people have actually thought good of that movie.
We have like multiple friends that like it. I'm just like, wait, for real? Like,
well, clearly we have friends that have no taste. As if we didn't know this already. So,
like, friend of the show, Mr. X from last episode.
Mr. X,
was like,
yes.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, I saw Sonic. It was pretty good. It was like for real? Like, it was actually good? Like,
commentary?
He's like, well, it was okay. I'm like,
you just said it was good. Now you're saying it's okay. I'm not really trusting your opinion there, Skippy.
I don't believe it at all. I refuse.
I don't plan on seeing it. It's a waste of my time. So
I still haven't seen a movie that came out this year yet. Other than Tiger King.
I don't think I have either.
Will this be the first year ever that I don't watch a movie from that year?
I doubt it.
We never know. We never know how deep the rabbit hole might go.
I'm still like shocked at how much The Lighthouse has entered my lexicon of speech. I love that movie.
Is that one of the 5 films that changed your life?
No, I just love it so much. The fact that movies like that can exist now is beautiful.
Yeah.
That a director...
Sheep your sparring with the gold.
Best leave it be. Bad luck to kill a seabird. So it's just entering my speech, and there hasn't been a movie to do that since, the big boy back there. So...
What's a timberman like you being a wiki?
What's a timberman want with being a wiki? So, but it's amazing to see that a guy can go out and make a profitable movie and then they let him do whatever he wants. So I think that's a good place to wrap up for today.
Do you think this will, last question before we go, do you think this will get people to be outside and socialize more?
No, I think people will forget about it after it happens.
I don't know, because people are going so crazy with not being able to see their friends and their loved ones and stuff. I feel like this is, maybe it's just the eternal optimist in me, but I feel like this is going to make people really appreciate spending time in the moment a lot more.
I guess I have less faith in humanity than you do.
Yeah, I mean, I also already have very little faith in humanity.
I'll give it that this
is
the longest time that most of humanity has been shut down. It's probably the first time in recorded history that we've been shut down this long.
Yeah.
That I can think of. I might be wrong, but,
I mean, other than, the Black Plague, but that stuff doesn't really count. Because it wasn't a global society. Or even, I saw, this post, the other day that was so this is what you all with no job do every day. This is...
so
terrible.
True. It's so true.
Thank you for listening to this special coronavirus lockdown episode of Children's Programming.
Yes, hopefully you've listened to the first 2 episodes. Hopefully I'm going to get the second one actually edited today. So if you're listening to this, the second one is probably already out.
Yeah.
So as usual, give us a follow. I'm thinking of changing all the social medias to one coherent thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So as of right now, follow us at Podcast Children on Twitter and Children's Programming on Instagram. As usual, check out the RST documentary about the restoration of RST video. Most prevalent on Instagram. That's where we do most of our activity, updates about the shoot and everything. Obviously not doing much right now. Trying to get some.
But we're gonna have lots of content coming when this is all done.
Of course. Yeah. So that's all I got for today.
Follow me on all the socials at Nick Paradies. In addition to hosting here, I'm also a frequent guest on the Grind Hours podcast with a friend of the show, Joe Leo, so check that out. That's a sports show. This is an everything show.
I was worried it was turning into a sports podcast just by itself, but we seem to transition good enough.
Yeah.
So a general topic. Not that it matters, I don't really care.
No, it's just a discussion time.
So yeah, next week we'll definitely have to talk about that Weezer Kevin Smith theory.
Yes.
I think there's more to
Go
that.
into detail.
Go look at that thread, see how far the rabbit hole goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna stop recording now.
All right.